Hey everyone, thank you. Seriously, thank you for tuning in. Before I start, smash that like button if you've ever felt your heart pound through your ribs. Subscribe if you want the raw, unfiltered truth about survival. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, whether you're bunkered down in Tokyo or sipping coffee in Toronto. Names matter. Places matter. Remember that. My name isn't important. What I was, that's what sticks. I taught 8th grade history at Jefferson Middle School. Loved it. Loved the dusty textbooks, the kids' board size, even the lukewarm cafeteria coffee. But 12 hours ago, I stopped being a teacher. I became prey. It started with sirens, not the fire drill kind. These were jagged, screaming wails that clawed through the classroom windows. Principal's voice crackled over the PA. Code Black, lockdown, immediate shelter in place. Code Black? We practiced for shooters, not whatever this was. Outside, car horns tangled with sounds I'd only ever heard in war documentaries. Shrieks, wet tearing, glass exploding. My kids froze. 23 faces, pale as printer paper. Sarah Chen dug her nails into her desk. Miguel Rodriguez whispered, "Is this real, Mr. T?" Before I could lie, the hallway erupted. Something slammed against our door, hard. Not human. Human shoulders don't crack oak like kindling. Splinters flew. Then the snarling started, guttural, hungry, like a starving dog trapped in a meat locker. "Barricade!" I yelled. Desks scraped, kids sobbed as we piled everything against the door. Chairs, the projector cart, my damn coffee maker. Through the door's wired window, I saw him. Mr. Henderson, the biology teacher, or what was left of him. His jaw hung by tendons, one eye socket a dark hole. Blood painted his world's best dad tie. He threw himself at the door again. The window webbed. Then the power died. Emergency lights bathed everything in hellish red. That's when the screaming started down the hall. Not fear, agony, raw, liquid agony, followed by chewing. We huddled in the corner. I gripped a fire extinguisher like a lifeline. Little Leo Fernandez vomited quietly into a trash can. "They're eating Mrs. Gable," whimpered Chloe Dubois. She'd seen it through the window slit. The confirmation hit like a shovel to the gut. Zombies. Actual goddamn zombies. An hour crawled by. The banging stopped. Silence was worse. That's when we heard the scraping. Slow. Deliberate. From the ceiling vents. "They're inside," Sarah breathed. We weren't safe. The vents. Maintenance tunnels connecting every room. A kid's choked sob echoed from the science lab next door. Then a wet crunch. Miguel gagged. "We have to move," I hissed. Abandoning the room was suicide. Staying was a death sentence. I chose motion. Stay close. Move fast. Don't look back. We slid the barricade aside. The hallway was a charnel house. Lockers dented inward, smeared with gore. Fluorescent tubes swung, casting strobe light nightmares over bodies. Some torn apart, others twitching, reanimating. A janitor I joked with yesterday dragged himself toward us, intestines snagging on floor tiles. "Run!" We sprinted, past the cafeteria where trays and rotting food swam in blood, past the library, glass shattered, books strewn like confetti over a disemboweled librarian. Every shadow lunged, every corner hid teeth. Then the gym doors, thick, metal, safe. We barreled inside, slamming them shut. Dark, silent, and reeking of sweat and copper. "Flashlights," I ordered. Beams cut the gloom. The basketball court was empty, bleachers pushed against the walls. Thank God. We collapsed, gasping, but Leo's light trembled on the far wall. Mr. T, the blood! It wasn't just splatters. It was words, smeared in crimson across the pale cinder blocks. They fear the silver girl. Before I could process it, a crash shattered the silence above us. The skylight. A figure dropped onto the court, then another, and another. Students, or what used to be students, cheer uniforms torn, eyes milky, limbs moving with broken doll jerks. One still clutched a half-eaten trophy in its teeth. They zeroed in on us. Fast. Too fast. Back door, now! I screamed. We bolted for the equipment room. Chloe stumbled. A zombie lunged. A girl with a gaping throat wound. I swung the fire extinguisher, hard. The tank crushed her skull. Bone and brain sprayed hot across my face. Keep moving. The equipment room was a dead end. No exit. Just mats, deflated balls, and a high window. Up! Climb! I boosted kids onto shelves. The door groaned. Fingernails scrabbled at the wood. Miguel froze, staring at his hands. They were sticky, glowing faintly silver under the flashlight beam, like liquid metal. I touched the wall, he stammered. The words! It stained me. The door exploded inward. The door didn't just open, it imploded. Shards of wood and twisted metal hinges flew like shrapnel. The stench hit us first. Decay, copper blood, and something else, like spoiled meat left in a damp cellar. Then they poured in. Not just the cheerleader ghouls from the court, more. Drawn by the noise, the fear. Students I'd graded papers for last week. Cafeteria workers, even Mr. Henderson, his ruined face locked in a permanent, hungry snarl. Their eyes, milky and vacant, fixed on us. The moaning became a guttural chorus, a symphony of hunger. The window! Go! 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 My throat ripped raw from the scream. Chloe scrambled up the stacked gym mats like a squirrel. Leo, tears streaking through the grime on his face, practically vaulted onto the shelf below the high, grimy window. Sarah shoved Miguel forward. Move, Miguel! Miguel stumbled. His silver-stained hands held out awkwardly like they were burning him. The first zombie, a burly kid from the football team, his Letterman jacket soaked in dark fluids, one arm dangling uselessly, lunged past a shattered doorframe. Its good hand, fingers broken and bent at impossible angles, grabbed for Sarah's ankle. Instinct took over, not thought. Pure, adrenalized survival. I swung the fire extinguisher like a battering ram. It connected with the side of the football player's head with a sickening crunch chomp. Bone yielded. Something wet and gray sprayed across the dusty mats. The thing staggered, its grip loosening, but didn't go down. It turned its weaned head towards me, jaws working silently for a second before it lunged again, faster than something so broken should move. I brought the extinguisher down hard on its collarbone, feeling it snap, driving it to its knees. Before it could rise, I stomped hard on its temple. Once, twice. The skull caved like a rotten pumpkin under my heel. Keep moving. Don't stop. Don't think. Leo was frantically punching at the window latch. It's stuck, Mr. T. It's stuck. Chloe was already at the top, kicking desperately at the glass with her sneakers. It held. Behind me, more shapes crowded the doorway, tripping over the twitching football player. Mr. Henderson shambled closer, his remaining hand reaching, fingers grasping air inches from my back. Miguel stood frozen near the base of the mats, staring in horror at the advancing tide. Miguel, up, now! I roared, shoving him hard towards the pile. He scrambled, his silver hands leaving faint, shimmering smudges on the blue vinyl. Sarah was right behind him. The latch finally gave under Leo's frantic assault with a wrenching crack. Chloe kicked again. This time, the old glass shattered outwards with a loud crash. "Go, Leo, out!" Chloe screamed, helping him scramble through the jagged opening. Cold night air rushed in, smelling of smoke and distant screams. Sarah followed, slicing her hand on a shard but not stopping. Mr. Henderson's cold, dead fingers brushed my shoulder. I spun, swinging the extinguisher wildly. It glanced off his head, tearing a flap of scalp loose, but he kept coming, jaws snapping inches from my face. His breath was a graveyard stench. I shoved backwards with all my strength, stumbling onto the mats. Miguel was halfway up. "Jump, Miguel! Outside!" The biology teacher lurched forward, falling onto the mats with me. His weight pinned my legs. His head darted down, teeth aiming for my thigh. I jammed the nozzle of the extinguisher into his gaping mouth, gagging him. He bit down, metal screeching. Saliva and black blood dripped onto my pants. Other hands grabbed at my jacket, pulling. Snarls filled my ears. This was it. Trapped. Food. Then Miguel slipped. He didn't jump out. He fell backwards off the mats, landing hard on the floor right beside the struggling pile that was me and the undead teacher. "Miguel, no!" Sarah screamed from outside. Mr. Henderson, distracted by the new movement, turned his snapping jaws towards Miguel. Miguel, terrified, threw his hands up defensively, palms out. He shut his eyes tight. His silver-stained palm slammed against Mr. Henderson's decaying cheek. There was a sound like bacon hitting a superheated skillet. A vicious wet hiss! Mr. Henderson jerked back as if electrocuted. Where Miguel's hand had touched, the flesh boiled. It bubbled and blackened instantly, smoke curling up from the contact point. A high-pitched, unearthly shriek tore from the zombie's ruined throat. Not hunger, but agony and pure instinctive terror. It scrambled backwards off me, clawing at its own face, the blackened wound spreading rapidly across its cheek and jaw. The other zombies near it recoiled, stumbling back, a low, fearful whine replacing their snarls. They weren't looking at us anymore. They were looking at Miguel's hands, glowing faintly in the dim red emergency light, filtering through the shattered door. "They fear the Silver Girl." The words, painted in blood, flashed in my mind. Not a girl. Miguel. "Miguel, your hands!" I gasped, scrambling to my feet, grabbing his arm. "Touch them! Shove them!" I didn't understand it, but I saw the effect. Pure, primal fear in the dead eyes. Miguel, wide-eyed and trembling, thrust his hands towards the nearest zombie, a janitor missing an arm. The creature flinched violently, scrambling backwards into the others, causing a momentary tangle of rotting limbs. The path to the window was momentarily clear. "Out! Now!" I practically threw Miguel towards the mats. He scrabbled up. I followed, shoving him through the broken window head first. I heard him land with a grunt outside. I hauled myself through, jagged glass tearing at my clothes and skin. I tumbled out onto the cold asphalt of the side alley behind the gym, landing hard on my side. Pain flared, but it was distant. Adrenaline was a roaring river in my veins. We were out. Leo, Chloe, Sarah, Miguel, and me. 5 left out of 23. The sounds of the undead pack thrashing in confusion came from inside the gym, punctuated by that awful pain shrieking that was rapidly fading. The alley was dark, lit only by the moon and the distant flickering glow of fires across the city. Trash cans were overturned. A single bloody shoe lay discarded. The air hummed with distant sirens, screams, and the terrifying, unfamiliar sounds of the new world. "What happened back there, Mr. T?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. She was staring at Miguel, who was frantically wiping his hands on his jeans, but the silver stain seemed embedded, glowing faintly. "What did you do?" Miguel just shook his head, tears welling again. "I don't know. I touched the wall, the blood, and then..." He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "We need to move," I said, pushing myself up. "They'll find another way out, or more will come." My eyes scanned the alley. It ran parallel to the main school building. At one end, the chain link fence was bent and torn. Freedom. But at the other end, it connected to the main hallway corridor via a fire door. The door was slightly ajar. "That way," I pointed to the fence. "Quietly, stay low." We crept along the wall, the rough bricks scraping our backs. Every shadow seemed to move. Every distant crash made us freeze. We were almost to the torn fence section when Leo whimpered, pointing back towards the fire door. "Look!" The door was open wider now. Silhouetted against the dim red emergency lights inside the hallway was a figure. Small, hunched, moving with the limp. It wore a familiar pink backpack. Chloe sucked in a sharp breath. "Emily!" Her voice was barely a whisper, thick with dread. Emily Dubois, Chloe's little sister, 6th grade. She must have been hiding, trying to get out. "Emily!" Chloe hissed, pulling away from the wall. "Em, over here!" The figure turned. Even in the gloom, we saw the unnatural tilt of the head, the slow, dragging step. It wasn't Emily anymore. It was wearing Emily. It let out a low, gurgling moan and started shuffling faster towards us, its movements jerky, but determined. Chloe screamed, a raw sound of pure grief and horror. "No! Emily!" She started to run towards the thing that had been her sister. "Chloe, stop!" I lunged, grabbing her arm, yanking her back, just as the small zombie lurched forward with surprising speed, jaw snapping shut on empty air where Chloe's leg had been a second ago. Its milky eyes fixed on us. It moaned again, louder, a beacon in the night. From inside the hallway behind it, answering moans erupted. Shadows converged on the open fire door. We were out of time. "The fence! Run!" I shoved Chloe towards the torn chain link. Leo scrambled through first. Sarah followed. Miguel hesitated, looking back at the approaching figure spilling into the alley. Students, teachers, things that moved wrong. He held up his hands, the silver glow pulsing faintly. The leading zombie slowed, a ripple of unease passing through them, but they didn't stop. There were too many. The fear wasn't absolute. Not yet. "Miguel, go!" I yelled, pushing him towards the fence. He stumbled through. I shoved Chloe after him. The first zombie, a tall figure in a shredded security guard uniform, was only 10 feet away. I turned to follow my students. Something slammed into my back, hard. I was thrown forward, crashing into the chain link fence. Pain exploded across my shoulder blades. Hot, fetid breath washed over my neck. Teeth scraped against the collar of my jacket. Emily. She was small, but her grip was like iron. I twisted, trying to throw her off, but her jaw snapped near my ear. I got a hand under her chin, pushing with all my strength, feeling the unnatural cold of her dead flesh. Her head thrashed, trying to bite my fingers. Over her shoulder, I saw the security guard closing in, arms outstretched. More shapes filled the alley mouth. I was pinned, trapped between the fence and the dead. I braced for the tearing pain. This was how it ended. In a filthy alley, ripped apart by a little girl I used to see drawing butterflies in the library. Suddenly, a small glowing hand shot through the fence links beside my head. Miguel. He pressed his silver palm directly onto Emily's temple. The hiss was immediate and violent. Smoke billowed. Emily shrieked, a sound that cut off abruptly as her small body convulsed violently. Her grip loosened instantly. She reeled back, clawing at her head, blackened flesh sloughing away from the contact point. She stumbled into the path of the security guard, who tripped over her, crashing to the ground. The momentary obstruction gave me the split second I needed. I hauled myself through the torn fence, ripping my jacket on the jagged metal. Miguel grabbed my arm, pulling me clear. "Run! Just run!" I gasped. We didn't look back. We sprinted across the empty street towards the looming, dark shape of the abandoned science annex. Behind us, the alley filled with furious, frustrated snarls. They hadn't followed through the fence. Yet. We burst through the annex's unlocked front doors, slamming them shut behind us. Darkness. Silence, except for our ragged breathing and Chloe's choked sobs. We collapsed against the cool tile floor of the lobby. We were in. For now. Leo found the flashlight abandoned on the reception desk. Its beam cut through the gloom, illuminating dusty trophies and faded posters about photosynthesis. We were in a small lobby. Hallways branched off left and right. Stairs led up. The air smelled stale, like old paper and disinfectant. "We can't stay here long," I panted, wincing as I touched the throbbing pain on my back where Emily had hit me. My jacket was torn, but no bite, just deep bruising. "They know we're out here. They'll find a way." Sarah was tending to Chloe, who rocked back and forth, her face buried in her knees, muffled sobs shaking her shoulders. Miguel sat huddled against the wall, staring at his hands as if they were alien weapons. The silver glow had faded slightly, but was still visible. "What are you, Miguel?" Leo asked, his voice small and scared, shining the light on Miguel's hands. Miguel shook his head, tears finally spilling over. "I don't know, I swear, I just touched that wall, the blood." He looked up at me desperately. "Mr. T, what's happening to me?" I didn't have an answer, but I knew where we might find one. The annex housed the school's small medical clinic and, more importantly, the main server room for the district network. If anyone had been monitoring unusual events, if there were any records. "The server room," I said, pushing myself up, downstairs, basement level. "If there's any information about this, about you, Miguel, it might be there or in the clinic files." The thought of going deeper into the dark, enclosed building was terrifying, but staying put was death. We needed answers. We needed to understand why the dead feared Miguel's silver touch. "Can you walk, Chloe?" Sarah asked, softly. Chloe lifted her head, her eyes red and swollen. She looked at Miguel, then at me. A flicker of something hardened in her gaze. Grief, yes, but also fury. She nodded once sharply. "Yeah, let's go find out what this is." We moved cautiously down the main hallway, Leo's flashlight beam bouncing ahead like a nervous animal. Classrooms stood dark and empty. We passed the biology lab. The door was open. Inside, glassware was shattered. We moved cautiously down the main hallway, Leo's flashlight beam bouncing ahead like a nervous animal. Classrooms stood dark and empty. We passed the biology lab. The door was open. Inside, glassware was shattered, charts torn down, and dark, sticky smears covered one wall. The silence was oppressive, broken only by our footsteps and the frantic pounding of our hearts. We found a stairwell to the basement. The door was heavy metal. It creaked ominously as I pulled it open. Stale, cool air smelling faintly of damp concrete and chemicals wafted up. The stairs descended into utter blackness. Leo shone the light down. The beam barely reached the bottom. "Stay close," I whispered, taking the lead. My fire extinguisher was gone, lost in the alley. I picked up a heavy metal pipe that had been propped against the wall, a makeshift weapon. Sarah found a fire axe in a glass case nearby and smashed it open. The sound was jarringly loud in the silence. We froze, listening. No answering sounds came. Yet. We descended slowly, each step echoing. The basement was a maze of storage rooms, boiler axes, and the server room. The clinic was supposedly down here too. The beam of the flashlight revealed stacked chairs, old projectors covered in dust sheets, and pipes running along the ceiling. Shadows danced and leapt. We turned a corner. Leo's light swept across the door marked server room, authorized personnel only. Relief washed over me. We were close. Then the beam caught something else, further down the corridor. A shape slumped against the wall near another door labeled nurse. It was wearing a white lab coat. Dark stains bloomed across the front. Its head was down. We held our breath. Was it dead? Undead? It wasn't moving. Maybe just a body, Sarah whispered hopefully. We took a step closer, then another. The figure didn't stir. Leo shifted the light slightly. It illuminated the name tag clipped to the coat. Dr. Eris. Not one of the names. The head slowly lifted. The face was slack, gray. One eye was missing, just a dark, crusted hole. The other eye fixed on us, milky but aware. Its jaw worked slowly, a low groan bubbling from its throat. It started to push itself up from the floor, its movements stiff but deliberate. Before it could fully rise, something small and fast darted from the open door of the nurse's station behind it, a blur of matted fur and exposed bone. It was Mr. Whiskers, the school therapy cat, or what was left of him. Undead, feral, and impossibly fast. It leapt onto the groaning Dr. Zombie's back, sinking teeth into its neck, then sprang off, landing silently on the concrete floor between us and the server room. It hissed, a sound like tearing canvas, its back arched, tail puffed, milky eyes fixed on Leo's flashlight. It took a step forward, then another, its body low to the ground, ready to pounce. Behind it, the Dr. Zombie finally gained its feet, groaning louder, drawn by the cat's aggression. Trapped between a feral undead cat and a reanimated doctor. The server room door was so close, yet impossibly far. Miguel stepped forward, holding his glowing hands out towards the cat. "Get back!" His voice trembled but held command. The cat zombie hissed again, but hesitated, its milky eyes fixed on Miguel's silver palms. It took a half step back, confused, fearful. The Dr. Zombie shuffled closer, arms outstretched, oblivious to the threat Miguel posed. Then, from the darkness of the nurse's station, illuminated by the beam Leo desperately tried to hold steady, I saw it. A laptop, open on a small desk. The screen was cracked but glowing faintly. On it, frozen mid-scroll, was a document. The header was clear even from this distance. Project Silverblood, Initial Outbreak Assessment, Classified. And below it, a subheading that froze the blood in my veins. Patient Zero status confirmed. The name beside it wasn't mine. It wasn't Chloe's, Sarah's, or Leo's. It was Miguel Rodriguez. Time didn't slow down, it shattered. The undead cat, Mr. Whiskers, a ball of matted fur, exposed ribs gleaming whitely, one ear torn off, didn't hesitate. It saw Miguel's distraction, the flicker of terror in his eyes as he read his own name on that cracked screen. With a sound like ripping burlap, it launched itself, not at Miguel's hands, but low towards his legs. A blur of decayed muscle and sharp, yellowed bone claws. "Down!" I roared, shoving Miguel sideways. The cat sailed past where his calf had been, landing silently, whipping around instantly. Its milky eyes burned with feral hunger. Behind it, Dr. Ares groaned, lurching forward, arms outstretched towards Sarah, who stood frozen, the fire axe held limply at her side. Leo screamed, pure terror, the flashlight beam jerking wildly, casting insane, leaping shadows. The light caught the cat mid-pounce again, this time aimed at Leo's face. I swung the metal pipe like a baseball bat. It connected solidly with the cat's side. The impact jarred my arms. I felt ribs snap under the force. The creature yowled, a sound that scraped nails down my spine, and spun away, crashing into a stack of dusty chairs. It scrambled up instantly, unfazed, hissing, a chunk of fur and rotten flesh missing from its flank. Sarah snapped out of her trance. As Dr. Ares closed in, fingers grasping for her throat, she brought the fire axe up in a desperate arc. It wasn't clean. The blade bit deep into the zombie's shoulder, lodged in bone with a sickening hit. Black ooze thick as tar bubbled from the wound. The doctor snarled, its one milky eye fixed on Sarah, pulling against the embedded axe, dragging her closer to its snapping jaws. "Let go, Sarah!" Chloe yelled, grabbing a heavy 3-hole punch from a nearby cart. She slammed it into the doctor's temple. The zombie's head rocked sideways, but it held on to the axe handle, still pulling Sarah inexorably towards its gnashing teeth. Sarah braced her foot against its chest, screaming with effort, trying to wrench the axe free. The cat recovered. It ignored the pipe blow, its unnatural focus terrifying. It stalked towards Miguel, who was scrambling backwards on the floor, his silver hands held out defensively, his face a mask of horror and confusion. "No! Get away!" Miguel sobbed, swiping at the air. The cat flinched each time his hands came near, but kept advancing, a low, continuous growl rumbling in its desiccated chest. It knew the hands were dangerous, but the hunger drove it past the fear. Leo, still screaming, shone the light directly in the cat's eyes. It hissed, momentarily blinded, turning its head away. Now! I charged, pipe raised high. I didn't aim for the body this time. I aimed for the head. I brought the pipe down with every ounce of strength left in my battered body, channeling the terror, the grief, the sheer rage of the last 14 hours. The pipe crushed the cat's skull. It wasn't like the football player, or even Mr. Henderson. It was smaller, wetter. The skull collapsed like rotten fruit. Brains and bone fragments sprayed across the concrete floor. The small body spasmed once, twice, then lay still. Finally, still. "Sarah, now!" Chloe screamed, still pounding the doctor's head with the hole punch. Sarah planted both feet and yanked with a guttural cry. The axe tore free in a shower of black ichor and splintered bone. Dr. Ares staggered. Sarah didn't hesitate. She reversed her grip and swung the axe horizontally. The blade bit deep into the zombie's neck. Not clean, it sawed through tendon and gristle. The head lolled grotesquely, held on by a shred of sinew before the body finally crumpled to the floor, twitching. Silence, thick, heavy, broken only by our ragged gasps and Miguel's choked sobs. The stench of decay, ozone, and fresh gore hung in the damp air. Leo's flashlight beam trembled over the carnage, the crushed cat, the nearly decapitated doctor, the spatter patterns dark on the gray concrete. Miguel stared at his hands, then at the laptop screen, glowing faintly from the nurse's station. "Patient 0, he whispered, the words tasting like ash. It says I did this?" "Miguel, no," I started, my voice rough. But the truth was on that screen. We all saw it. The implications were a physical weight, crushing. Was it me? His voice rose, edged with hysteria. Did I kill Emily? Mrs. Gable? Everyone? He looked at Chloe, raw agony in his eyes. Chloe flinched, looking away, her knuckles white on the blood-smeared hole punch. We don't know what it means yet, Miguel, I said, firmly, forcing authority into my voice. That laptop, we need to see what it says, exactly what it says. Answers. We desperately needed answers. Were we traveling with the cause? The cure? A weapon? Pushing past the horror, I stepped over the twitching doctor corpse and into the small nurse's station. The laptop was old, the screen cracked diagonally, but still functional. The document, Project Silverblood, filled the screen. I scrolled up frantically with the touchpad, Leo aiming the light over my shoulder. Sarah kept watch at the door, axe ready, her face pale but determined. Chloe stood rigidly near Miguel, not looking at him. Snippets jumped out, stark and terrifying under the shaky beam. Initial vector traced to Rodriguez, M. Student ID number 84732. Asymptomatic carrier identified during routine district-wide silver blood booster inoculation follow-up. See Addendum 7B. Anomalous biomarker response. Carrier exhibited unique metallic dermal secretion. AG117 isotope complex. Post-exposure to VX9 viral accelerant present in booster. Secretion identified as highly caustic to reanimated neural tissue. Containment breach level 5 at Jefferson Middle School testing site. Airborne dispersal of VX9 accelerant confirmed during fire suppression system malfunction in Biolab 3. Rodriguez, M. Present at Ground Zero. Silver blood secretion, potential neutralizing agent. Further study required under controlled. The words blurred. Miguel wasn't patient zero in the traditional sense. He hadn't gotten sick first. He'd been injected with something else. This silver blood booster during a routine school vaccination program. It reacted with another compound, VX9, released during an accident. He became an asymptomatic carrier, a walking catalyst. His touch didn't cause the outbreak, but it was uniquely lethal to the things the outbreak created. The blood on the gym wall. They fear the silver girl. A terrified scrawl by someone who saw Miguel's touch burn one of them? Saw the fear it instilled? The booster, Miguel whispered, reading over my shoulder. Comprehension dawning, horror deepening. That shot last month, it made my arm ache for days. They did this to me. A loud bang echoed from upstairs, then another. The heavy lobby doors we'd shut, followed by the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Moans filtered down the stairwell, distant, but getting closer. They'd found us, drawn by the noise of the fight, the screams, the light. No time, Sarah hissed, backing away from the doorway, her eyes wide. They're in the building. The laptop battery icon flashed red. Critical. We had seconds. I scrolled frantically, searching for anything. A weakness, a cure, an escape. My eye snagged on a fragment near the bottom. Evacuation protocol Zulu ineffective. Secondary containment failed. Recommend immediate sterilization of Sector 7, Jefferson, MS, and Annex via aerial incendiary. Authorization pending. Aerial incendiary. They were going to burn it all. Burn us. The screen went black. The laptop died. Move! I slammed the laptop shut, shoving it into my torn jacket. Maybe useless, maybe not. We need out. Now. Back upstairs. Look for another exit. We burst from the nurses' station. The groans from above were louder, accompanied by the dragging shuffle of multiple feet on the stairs. They were coming down. We ran back down the corridor, away from the stairwell we'd entered, Leo's light jerking ahead. We passed the server room. Useless now. Another corridor branched off. Boiler room and maintenance, read a faded sign. The door was heavy steel, unlocked. We piled in, slamming it shut behind us, throwing a heavy latch. The room was vast, hot, and filled with the deep thrum of machinery. Giant rusted boilers dominated the space, pipes snaking everywhere like metallic intestines. Dim emergency lights cast long dancing shadows. The air tasted metallic and thick with dust. High up near the ceiling, small, grime-covered windows showed the bruised purple of pre-dawn sky. Too high to reach. Across the room, another heavy door. Our only hope. We'd barely taken 3 steps when the steel door behind us shuddered under a massive impact. Boom! Then another. Boom! They were throwing themselves against it. The latch held, but for how long? That door! I pointed across the cavernous room. We ran, weaving between pipes and machinery. The thudding against the entrance door became a constant drumbeat. We reached the far door. It was locked. A heavy padlock looped through a thick hasp. "No!" Chloe cried, rattling the handle. Sarah stepped forward, hefting the fire axe. "Stand back!" She swung. Sparks flew as the blade struck the padlock. Once, twice, the lock held. She screamed in frustration, a raw sound that echoed in the metallic space. The entrance door groaned. A hinge screamed in protest. Miguel pushed past her. His face was set, a terrifying mix of fear and grim determination. He placed his silver palm flat against the padlock. The reaction wasn't as violent as on flesh, but it was immediate. A sharp hiss, acrid smoke curling up. The metal under his hand glowed red, then white-hot in seconds. The hardened steel softened, warped. With a final desperate pull, Miguel yanked. The molten metal of the shackle stretched, then snapped. He cried out, pulling his hand back, cradling it. The silver glow pulsed angrily, the skin beneath red and blistered. But the lock was broken. I shoved the door open. Cold, clean air hit us. A metal staircase led steeply upwards onto the flat roof of the annex. "Go! Up! Now!" We scrambled up the narrow steps. I was last, slamming the heavy roof access door shut behind us, looking for a lock, a bar, anything. Nothing. It would only slow them down. We stood on the roof, gasping. The city sprawled before us in the gray pre-dawn light, but it wasn't the city we knew. Pillars of black smoke rose from a dozen points downtown. Fires burned unchecked in several districts. Car alarms wailed a discordant symphony, punctuated by distant gunfire and the ever-present, chilling moans that seemed to rise from the streets below. The school grounds were a nightmare tableau. Figures shambled across the football field, clustered near the main building entrance. The alley where we'd fought Emily was a seething mass of undead, drawn by the earlier noise. Below, inside the boiler room, the steel door finally gave way with a shriek of tearing metal. Snarls and groans flooded into the space. They'd find the roof stairs soon. We were trapped, exposed. 5 souls on a rooftop island in a sea of the dead. Miguel slumped against the vent, staring at his blistered hand, then out at the burning city. The weight of the laptop felt like a brick in my jacket. Zero patient, Silverblood, aerial incendiary. Chloe walked to the edge, looking down towards the alley, towards where her sister had fallen. Her shoulders shook. Sarah put an arm around her, but Chloe shrugged it off, turning instead to Miguel. Her eyes weren't accusing anymore. They were hollow, empty. "Does it hurt?" she asked softly, nodding at his hand. "Burning them?" Miguel looked up, tears cutting past through the grime on his face. He didn't answer. Leo pointed east, toward the edge of the city. "Look! Helicopters!" 2 dark shapes, military birds, skimmed low over the rooftops in the distance. Hope surged, brief and bright. Rescue? But they weren't heading towards us. They banked sharply, disappearing behind a plume of smoke near the riverfront. Gone. Then a new sound. A deep, resonant whump, growing louder, vibrating in our chests. Another helicopter? Bigger. Much bigger. It crested the horizon, a hulking dark silhouette against the lightning sky. It wasn't flying towards the city center. It was flying towards us, towards the school. It slowed, hovering perhaps half a mile away over an empty stretch of industrial yards. A single brilliant white flare streaked down from the helicopter, arcing gracefully towards the ground. It wasn't a signal, it was a marker. A second later, a high-pitched, tearing scream split the air. Something sleek and fast dropped from the helicopter's belly, trailing fire. It slammed into the ground precisely where the flare had landed. The explosion wasn't just sound. It was a physical force. A blinding white flash swallowed the industrial yard, followed instantly by a roiling, expanding fireball that climbed into the sky like an angry god. The shockwave hit us a heartbeat later, a wall of hot air and debris that slammed into the rooftop, staggering us, tearing at our clothes. The heat was intense, even from this distance. Sterilization, Sector 7. They weren't sending rescue, they were sending fire, and we were standing right in the middle of Sector 7. The helicopter banked, turning its nose, coming for another pass, coming for us. Behind us, the roof access door rattled violently. Then, with a splintering crash, it burst open. The first of them, a cafeteria worker still wearing a hairnet stained black, stumbled out onto the roof, followed by others, their moans merging with the apocalyptic roar of the approaching inferno and the scream of the next incoming death from above. 14 hours. 14 hours since the sirens tore my world apart. 14 hours of blood, terror, and impossible choices. We'd survived the school. We'd uncovered a terrible secret. We'd reached the roof only to find the sky itself was trying to kill us. Miguel looked from his hands to the oncoming firestorm, to the dead shambling towards us. His eyes held the same question screaming in my own skull. What do we do now? The roof access door exploded inward. Rotting hands clawed through the gap. The cafeteria worker lunged, hairnet flapping. Behind it, a tide of dead students, teachers, faces we knew poured onto the roof, driven by the helicopter's roar and the scent of living flesh. The air stank of jet fuel, burning city, and decay. The second white flare screamed down from the hovering helicopter, painting the dawn red. It hit the school's main building parking lot. The fireball erupted, swallowing cars, shattering windows. Heat washed over us like an open furnace. The roof trembled. Flaming debris rained down. "The stairs are gone! They're cutting us off!" Leo screamed, pointing back. The undead flood filled the roof access, blocking our only retreat. "The edge!" I roared over the infernal's roar. "Miguel, the pipe!" A thick, rusted ventilation pipe ran down the annex wall, 3 feet from the roof edge. Below, a dumpster sat in a narrow alley, our only chance. Miguel understood. Pain and terror warred on his face, but he saw the incoming helicopter banking for its final run, aimed at us. He sprinted to the pipe, ignoring the zombies shambling towards him from the shattered door. He slammed his silver palms onto the metal pipe bracket, securing it to the roof. Smoke billowed. The bracket glowed white-hot, then melted. The pipe groaned, sagging away from the wall. "Go! Down the pipe! Now!" I shoved Chloe towards it. She scrambled over the low wall, wrapped her legs around the hot metal, and slid. Sarah followed, axe still clutched, dropping onto the overflowing dumpster with a crash. Leo went next, whimpering. A zombie, Mr. Henderson, jaw swinging wildly, grabbed Miguel's shoulder as he turned from the smoking bracket. Miguel screamed, shoving his free hand into its chest. Hiss! The zombie shrieked, flesh bubbling, stumbling back into the pack. Miguel scrambled over the wall, sliding down the hot pipe, blistered hands screaming. I was last. The helicopter filled my vision, its belly opening. The first zombies reached the edge. I swung my pipe, crushing a skull, and vaulted over. Burning metal seared like palms, I slid, hit the dumpster hard, rolling onto reeking trash bags. The world turned white, sound vanished. Pure concussive force slammed us down. The annex roof vanished in a fireball. Superheated air scorched our backs. Burning debris rained. Chunks of concrete, twisted metal, flaming body parts. "Run!" I choked, holding Sarah up. The alley was a tunnel of fire. We stumbled forward, coughing, eyes streaming. Miguel dragged Leo. Chloe ran ahead, wild-eyed. Behind us, the annex collapsed inward with a ground-shaking roar, swallowing the dead and our past. We burst onto a side street, choked with smoke and abandoned cars. The military bird banked away, mission accomplished. Sector 7 was sterilized. We were ghosts in the ashes. A block away, a delivery truck sat idling, driver's door open, keys dangling. A zombie feasted on the driver nearby. Sarah didn't hesitate. The axe fire flashed. The zombie's head rolled. She wrenched the driver's body free. "Get in!" We piled into the cab. I slammed it into drive, tire screeching, plowing through scattered undead drawn by the explosion. We hit the main road, heading east, away from the burning school, away from the dying city core. Dawn bled through the smoke. Silence. Thick. Stunned. Only the truck's engine and our ragged breaths. Miguel cradled his hands. The silver glow was faint beneath angry blisters and soot. He stared out at the apocalyptic dawn. "Patient Zero," he whispered, voice raw. "Did I kill them all?" "No, Miguel," I said, my own voice like gravel. I glanced at him. "You just burned our way out. Whatever they made you, it kept us alive. That's what matters now. Surviving. Finding others." Ahead, the highway curved. A makeshift barricade of cars and desperate faces blocked the on-ramp. Men with hunting rifles waved us down frantically. Beyond them, the open road stretched into the unknown. "What do we tell them?" Sarah asked, gripping the axe handle, knuckles white. "About Miguel." I met Miguel's haunted eyes in the rearview mirror. The truth was a weapon, a burden, a target on his back. The laptop was ash. Only we knew. The truck slowed. We tell them we survived, I said, stopping short of the guns. We tell them the city's gone. And we tell them, I looked at Miguel's damaged, shining hands. We tell them nothing. Not yet. Survival first. Secrets later. I opened the door. The morning air tasted like fire and endings.